Dark Energies. Introduction. In this universe, nothing stands still. All things, seen and unseen, are in motion. Currents of energy weave through creation, rising and falling like invisible tides. Some carry light, some carry a shadow. Both move through the same field, both seek expression through the human heart. You see, energy has no voice of its own. It borrows ours. It speaks through thoughts, emotions, and impulses, through the silent choices that shape every moment of our lives. When your heart beats with gratitude, compassion, and love, you align with the higher current, the luminous force that restores harmony wherever it flows. It heals. It clarifies. It unites. It expands everything it touches. But when the mind bends toward envy, arrogance, or fear, another current awakens, a denser vibration that feeds on dissonance. It takes root in conflict, resentment, and separation. It is not evil by nature, only light that has forgotten its origin, searching for direction through unconscious hearts. Both currents live within you, at every breath you are choosing, not through words or belief, but through vibration. For energy follows resonance, not reason. Every thought is an invitation, every emotion a signal. You are a living transmitter, broadcasting into the unseen field that shapes all things. This is why some people uplift you without a word, and others drain your spirit just by being near. They may not know it, few do, but the forces that move through them are very real. The universe is a mirror of frequencies. It echoes what you radiate, and whether you're aware of it or not, you are never neutral. You are either a conduit for light or a passage through which darkness speaks. The question is not whether energy affects you, but which energy do you allow to move through you? They are exchanges of force, silent transmissions between fields of awareness. For every being is both transmitter and receiver, shaping the invisible architecture of reality, with every thought, every breath, every feeling. You cannot see it, but it is always happening. In the space between two hearts that never speak, in the silence that lingers after anger, fades in the air, that hums when emotion moves unseen. The universe is not empty. It listens, it responds, it remembers. Your thoughts are signals, your emotions are frequencies, your very presence is a continuous broadcast to the living field that surrounds and sustains all things, and that field answers. This was the secret the mystics knew, that the unseen world is not separate from you, but shaped by you. Every desire, every fear, every intention creates a ripple through the ether, seeking its reflection in the fabric of existence. Some called these ripples influences, others spirits, currents, shadows, but their essence has always been the same, energy in motion, obeying the law of resonance. You felt it, the heaviness that lingers after anger, the exhaustion that clings to you after standing beside resentment, the peace that fills you in the presence of serenity. These are not emotions, they are transmissions, silent conversations between fields of energy. The ancients understood this. They guarded their vitality as kings guard their crowns, because they knew the mind does not end at the skull. It radiates far beyond it, a living sphere of influence, shaping the unseen with every thought it emits, and within that unseen there are intelligences, some bright, some dim, all responsive, all alive. Dion Fortune once warned that psychic attack is rarely intentional. It is emotion, ungoverned, a projection of force, so charged with pain or envy that it leaps from one field to another like lightning seeking ground. A curse may not be spoken. Envy alone is enough. A drain may not be summoned. Fear opens the door. Wherever energy flows without awareness, shadows gather to feed. But here lies the paradox. The same awareness that draws them dissolves them. You cannot be overtaken by what you see clearly. For the instant you name the force, you stand above it. To understand the mechanism is to master it. So tonight we step together into that silence, not as prey of unseen powers, but as witnesses of their design, not to fear the dark currents, but to learn how light commands them. For once the soul remembers its source, it stands beyond reach, and when the lamp of consciousness burns clear, no shadow can endure its flame, because what we call darkness was never an enemy, only light that forgot its own name. Chapter 1. The nature of energy. Light, shadow, and consciousness. Everything that exists, every breath, every thought, every heartbeat in the cosmos is made of one living substance, energy. It is the breath behind creation, the invisible pulse that sustains the stars, the same current that flows through your hands when you reach for another being. Energy is the universal language, the first tongue spoken before words existed. It moves through galaxies and atoms alike, carrying the memory of the infinite. It does not age, it does not decay, it simply changes form. It is the painter, the brush, and the color all at once. It is through energy that spirit learns what it means to become form, and through consciousness that form remembers it was always spirit. Yet energy by itself is neutral. It has no moral direction, no inherent good or evil. It simply obeys consciousness, the will that guides it. Consciousness is the sculptor, energy is the clay. Together they create the architecture of all worlds, visible and unseen. The sages of every civilization understood this, that reality is not built from matter, but from vibration. What we call form is only energy slowed down enough to be perceived. What we call destiny is energy arranged by thought, and what we call fate is simply unrecognized energy. The unconscious becomes visible. When energy flows through awareness, it becomes light. When it moves without direction, it becomes shadow. This is the eternal polarity through which existence evolves. Light is not a thing, but a state of coherence. It is energy harmonized with truth. When guided by consciousness, it expands, creates, heals, and uplifts. It flows outward, effortlessly, like a river returning to the sea. It is the movement of life, remembering its source. Shadow, however, is energy that has become fragmented, separated from awareness, stripped of direction. It contracts, it feeds not because it is evil, but because it has forgotten how to create. It seeks warmth from the light it once was. This is why the human heart is the battleground of all invisible wars. Through feeling we give motion to energy. Through thought we give it command, and through choice we give it purpose. Your emotions are not reactions, they are transmissions. Each carries a frequency, and every frequency builds a reality. Love, gratitude, compassion, these are not sentimental virtues, they are the highest technologies of alignment. When you dwell in these states, your field resonates with the order of the universe. You become a clear channel for divine intelligence to act through you. Creation bends around your intention because you have become in tune with its rhythm. But resentment, envy, fear, and arrogance, these are distortions. They create interference patterns within the soul's field. They bend energy inward until it feeds on itself. What once expanded begins to consume. This is the origin of psychic darkness, not demonic invasion, but energetic collapse. The mystic Dion Fortune described it as the infection of force. Dark energy, she wrote, is simply vitality that has lost its purpose. It cannot create, so it attaches itself to those who can. It mimics emotion to be felt, mimics thought to be heard, and feeds through those who confuse its vibration for their own. This is why awareness is not a luxury, it is protection. When you know what moves through you, you can choose whether to feed it or to free it. Ignorance opens doors. Consciousness closes them. Energy cannot remain where it is seen clearly. Shadow lives only in unawareness. Its power is borrowed from confusion. The moment light enters, the illusion dissolves. And so the battle between light and darkness has never been a war between gods and devils. It is the inner drama of human consciousness. The war is between sleep and awakening, between reaction and realization, between the self that fears and the self that knows. Every thought you think is a signal to the field. Every emotion you sustain is a magnetic command. You are always creating, always transmitting, always influencing the unseen. The universe does not distinguish prayer from complaint. It only answers vibration. This is why the wise guarded their hearts as sacred altars. They knew the cost of careless thought. They knew that to harbor bitterness is to become food for what drains you, and that to hold gratitude is to become a sun, a center from which new worlds can emerge. In the great tapestry of existence, there are no isolated souls. Your field touches all others. Your peace nourishes thousands. Your anger disrupts the weave. The energy you emit travels further than sound. It ripples through the fabric of consciousness itself. You are not a body inside a world. You are a world inside a body of energy, and that body is always speaking. So learn to listen. When tension rises in your chest, energy is moving. When peace fills you without reason, energy is aligning. When your thoughts become sharp and heavy, energy is asking for release. And when silence descends, that deep stillness between breaths, energy is returning home. Remember, energy has no morality, only direction. Light and shadow are not enemies. They are polarities of the same divine force. One expands, one contracts. Both serve the same evolution of consciousness. When you observe without judgment, you step out of polarity and into power. You stop reacting to energy and begin directing it. And that is where mastery begins. Because the true protection against darkness is not fear, nor ritual, nor defense. It is coherence. When your inner light shines undivided, darkness cannot touch you. It must transform, for it was never evil, only energy longing to remember the source from which it came. And when you stand in that remembrance, you become what the ancients called a living light, a soul that no longer seeks to escape the shadow because it has learned to turn it into illumination. Chapter 2. How Dark Energy is Born. Dark energy is not an intruder from another realm. It is born here within the human field, within the tension between thought and emotion, within the forgotten corners of the soul. It begins as something small, almost harmless. A single unhealed moment, a resentment left to fester, a silent wound that never found the light. Every emotion that is suppressed does not vanish. It sinks. It settles in the lower currents of the field, where awareness seldom looks. And there it begins to move on its own, feeding on repetition, feeding on attention. This is the seed of dark energy, unresolved emotion, given endurance. At first it whispers as self-pity, then it grows into bitterness, then envy, then a subtle thirst for power or validation, and before long, what was once a passing feeling becomes a pattern, an energy field with its own momentum. The human mind, unaware of its own creative nature, believes it is the victim of these patterns, but it is their maker. Every thought charged with emotion is an act of creation. Energy follows intention, and intention follows belief. When you think about something with enough repetition and emotional charge, it gains density. It becomes a form, a vibration with weight. This is how energies begin to crystallize in the subtle world, through focus, repetition, and emotion. So when fear is repeated, it thickens. When anger is justified, it hardens. When envy is indulged, it magnetizes. And when these vibrations persist long enough, they begin to attract similar frequencies. Energy seeks resonance. It merges with its likeness in others. This is how collective darkness forms, through countless individuals vibrating in unawareness, each amplifying the same unconscious emotion in the field of humanity. Dark energy, then, is not evil. It is forgotten energy, consciousness disconnected from its origin, wandering through minds that mistake it for self. It feeds not because it wants to destroy, but because it has lost its link to creation. It can no longer generate, only consume. So it lives through people borrowing their life force as its source of fuel. This is why negative states feel draining. When you hate, when you fear, when you envy, you are bleeding energy. You are feeding the vibration that weakens you. You are giving vitality to something that cannot live without you. In truth, most of humanity is not attacked by darkness. It collaborates with it unknowingly, through thoughtless emotion, through unconscious repetition, through the habit of dwelling in conflict. But nothing dark can exist without light to sustain it. Even the densest shadow depends on the radiance it hides from. The parasite depends on the host. The lie depends on truth to distort it. So too dark energy depends on the luminous soul to exist at all. It is not your enemy. It is your reflection, the part of yourself that forgot it was divine. And until it is remembered, it will return again and again, wearing new faces, playing new roles, asking the same silent question: will you remember me as light? This is why forgiveness is more powerful than banishment, because forgiveness is transmutation. When you forgive, you do not deny the darkness, you return it to its origin. You take back what was once yours, the energy that was trapped in pain, and you make it whole again. Every act of awareness heals a fragment of shadow. Every conscious breath reclaims stolen energy. Every moment of compassion rewrites the vibration of the past. But humanity has long been taught to fight darkness, and in fighting it we strengthen it. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. What you resist, you feed. What you understand, you free. The mystics knew this. That is why they did not wage war against darkness. They studied it. They learned its language, its rhythm, its hunger. They looked into the abyss not to conquer it, but to see their own reflection within it. And when they did, they discovered something astonishing. The same energy that can destroy also creates, the same force that enslaves can liberate, the same fire that burns can illuminate. For shadow is not the opposite of light. It is the womb of light. It is the space into which light descends to know itself. When you bring awareness into darkness, it begins to remember. It recognizes itself as part of the greater whole, and in that recognition it transforms. This is the secret of spiritual alchemy, to turn fear into strength, pain into wisdom, darkness into power, not by rejection, but by integration. Every emotion you fear holds a key. Every shadow you avoid guards a gate, and the only way beyond them is through them, with eyes open, with heart steady, with awareness unwavering. So the question is no longer, why does darkness exist? The question is, what part of me does it mirror? For energy moves where attention flows. If you look for monsters, you will find them. If you look for meaning, you will awaken it. The field reflects the observer's vibration, and when your vision becomes clear enough, you will see that darkness was never outside you. It was the silence of your own light waiting to be remembered. Chapter 3. The Mechanics of Psychic Influence. Dark energies do not enter through violence. They enter through permission, through resonance, through emotion, through the subtle doors that open when consciousness forgets itself. They move in silence, yet they are not secret. They exist in plain view, in the emotions we justify and the thoughts we refuse to question. Every human being lives surrounded by fields of energy, overlapping, interacting, blending, and colliding. These fields are alive. They breathe, expand, and contract, depending on the state of one's awareness. When two people meet, it is not their words that connect first. It is their fields. Before a smile, before a greeting, there is an exchange. Something unseen leans forward, testing, touching, transmitting. It is here that psychic influence begins. When two auras overlap, a conversation unfolds. One that has nothing to do with language and everything to do with vibration. If one field is strong, ordered, and coherent, it emanates stability. If the other is chaotic, fragmented, ungrounded, it seeks coherence by drawing from what it lacks. Energy flows from the more ordered system to the less ordered one. This is not mysticism. It is law. It is how thermodynamics behaves and how consciousness mirrors it in the subtle realms. This exchange is constant. Most people are unaware that they are feeding or draining others simply through their emotional state. When you're in the state, you're in the state. You sit beside someone who radiates calm. You feel your body soften, your breath deepen. Their coherence becomes a pattern your field imitates. But when you linger near one consumed by fear or resentment, your body tightens, your energy contracts. Their dissonance ripples through your system, looking for harmony. And if awareness is absent, your energy begins to match theirs. This is psychic contagion, the transmission of vibration through resonance. It happens in families, in crowds, in nations. It happens in relationships where one person unconsciously feeds on another's attention, pulling vitality through guilt, pity, or fear. It happens on the global stage when entire populations are guided into emotional conformity through media and narrative. Energy is neutral, but emotion gives it aim, and collective emotion multiplies it beyond measure. Every thought you emit is a frequency. Every frequency seeks resonance. When you think with clarity, your thought travels cleanly through the field, drawing similar clarity back to you. But when you think through anxiety or envy, your thought carries distortion. It travels outward like a signal through static, colliding with other distortions until it finds a match. And what it finds, it returns amplified. This is why fear grows so quickly. It does not live alone. It multiplies through connection. One fearful mind ignites another, and soon the entire field begins to hum with tension. It becomes easier to believe what frightens you than what frees you, because the collective vibration reinforces the lesser truth. Dark energies move through these connections like currents through water. They do not need words or rituals, only attention. Wherever attention goes, energy flows, and energy carries awareness with it. So, if your attention rests constantly on what you fear, on who wronged you, or on what drains you, you have already established a channel. You have tuned your inner instrument to that frequency. The danger is not that you will be attacked. The danger is that you will vibrate in sympathy with what harms you. This is the true meaning of possession, not demons entering from without, but resonance forming within. The lower frequencies begin to dictate emotion. Emotion dictates perception, and perception becomes reality. Dion Fortune warned that psychic attack is an affair of the mind. She understood that thought, when charged with strong emotion, becomes a living thing. It can be directed intentionally or unconsciously. It can bless or it can wound. Every curse is nothing more than thought in motion, and every blessing too. That is why protection begins with mental discipline. You cannot stop energies from existing, but you can decide which ones move through you. You cannot silence every thought, but you can choose which one you believe. And belief is the most potent force in the universe because belief directs energy with precision. When you believe in fear, you create channels for fear. When you believe in light, you become its vessel. Consciousness is the switch that decides which current flows. To influence another physically, consciously or not, one must first influence oneself. You cannot project what you do not hold. Therefore, those who radiate darkness are not powerful. They are enslaved by the vibration they emit. They are instruments played by the very energies they have forgotten how to command. The wise do not battle these forces. They transmute them. They remain aware of what moves through them and around them, but they do not identify with it. Awareness separates the self from the signal. Once you see the mechanism, the power dissolves. You realize, I am not what I feel. I am the one who feels it. In that moment of clarity, energy obeys again. The current returns to its rightful master. This is the hidden key behind every spiritual protection. Not ritual, not symbol, but awareness. For awareness is coherence, and coherence is armor. The mind that is centered cannot be invaded, the heart that is open cannot be drained, and the soul that knows itself as light cannot be influenced by shadow. It can only illuminate it. Every encounter in life is an exchange of energy. Every conversation is an unseen transmission of intention, and every environment you enter is a field waiting to be tuned by your presence. You are not merely surviving these interactions, you are shaping them. The question then is not, who influences me? But what frequency am I broadcasting to the world? Because whatever you emit returns, amplified, multiplied, magnified. The universe is an echo chamber for vibration. If you radiate peace, you will find it mirrored in every face. If you radiate fear, the world will offer endless reasons to confirm it. You are both transmitter and receiver. The source and the reflection, the cause and the effect. So guard your field with presence, not through resistance, but through resonance. Stay centered, stay luminous, stay awake. For the one who remembers that consciousness is the architect of reality cannot be influenced by anything less than itself. Chapter 4. The pathways of involvement. No one wakes up and decides to feed the dark. It begins quietly, almost tenderly, through small forgettings. A moment of fear was not dissolved. A grudge left unhealed. An envy indulged instead of being examined. Dark energy rarely announces itself. It does not knock. It echoes. It enters through the tones of thought, through emotions left unchecked, through attention spent carelessly. It waits for a vibration to match, and in that resonance it finds its host. Energy cannot act without a vessel. It needs a medium through which to move, a frequency through which to express itself. Human beings, when unaware of their own energy, become that medium, not because they are evil, but because they are unguarded. Dion Fortune once said that psychic danger begins not from malice, but from lack of control. And this is true. The shadow does not hunt the strong. It looks for the open wound. It seeks imbalance. It feeds where awareness sleeps. The first pathway is fear. Fear is the gateway vibration, the original fracture of trust. It closes the heart and opens the aura. When you fear, your energy contracts. Your field collapses inward. Like a fortress lowering its defenses, you become transparent to what vibrates on the same level. Fear says, I am separate. And in that illusion of separation, the dark finds entrance. The second pathway is resentment. Resentment is an emotion frozen in time, pain that refuses to die. Each replay of the same wound charges the energy field with static. It becomes a circuit of repetition, looping endlessly, feeding itself. Resentment is like carrying a flame in your chest while pretending it isn't there, and the more you ignore it, the brighter it burns. Dark energy feeds on that heat. It thrives in cycles of bitterness because those loops create predictable, harvestable patterns. Forgiveness is not a virtue here. The third pathway is emotional indulgence, the addiction to drama. Many souls, afraid of silence, seek intensity as proof of existence. Anger feels alive, sadness feels deep. Conflict feels important, but all of it is counterfeit vitality, energy borrowed from suffering. Every time you choose turmoil over peace, you invite the dense vibration of confusion to live through you. The dark does not need to possess such people. It simply rides their waves. They are already doing its work by amplifying chaos in the field. The fourth pathway is stimulation without awareness, the plague of modern life. Every sound, image, headline, and message carries a vibration, and the mind, constantly overstimulated, becomes porous. In ancient temples, initiates spent years in silence to strengthen their inner clarity. Today, people hand their focus to screens and wonder why they feel fragmented. What you consume becomes what you radiate. Attention is currency, and every moment spent feeding fear-based media is an energetic tithe to the collective shadow. The fifth pathway is spiritual ignorance disguised as curiosity. Humanity has always been drawn to the unseen, but not all doors lead to light. The shadow loves the half-awakened, those who seek power before purification. To summon without clarity, to invoke without alignment, is to open currents that do not serve your evolution. It is not the ritual that endangers, it is the vibration behind it. To raise energy without direction is to light a fire in a house without windows. This is why the ancients began every invocation with purification. Only a heart anchored in love can command the dark without being consumed by it. The sixth pathway is attachment. Energy binds through emotional cords. Every relationship creates them, threads of vibration that link two fields. When love flows freely, these threads shine and nourish both souls. But when attachment turns to obsession or dependence, the cords darken. They become channels, through which energy leaks, often in one direction. This is why, after letting go of someone, you may still feel their presence or their pain. The cord remains. The release must be conscious. You must bless the bond, thank it, and dissolve it with awareness. Otherwise, you will continue carrying someone else's shadow as your own. The seventh pathway, the most subtle of all, is self-ignorance, the forgetting of who you are. When you believe you are only flesh, only circumstance, only mind, you hand your energy to the world to shape. You let collective thought forms steer your emotions and define your worth. You live reactively instead of radiantly, and the currents of darkness, which depend on unawareness, gain strength through your forgetfulness. Every soul asleep in its own divinity becomes a node for confusion, but awareness reverses the current. To see these pathways is to begin closing them. When you observe fear, it loses authority. When you recognize resentment, it loses its grip. When you witness your own emotional loops without judgment, they unwind. Consciousness itself is purification. Light does not fight shadow. It dissolves it by being. Protection, then, is not about isolation. It is about coherence. The more unified your thoughts, feelings, and actions become, the less energy leaks outward. You become self-contained, a sealed vessel of radiance. Your field stabilizes, your vibration strengthens, and dark energy, unable to feed, simply passes by. This is the hidden law. No force can dominate a consciousness that stands in truth. Energy obeys the one who observes it without fear, and every time you choose awareness over reaction, you reclaim a piece of your light from the shadow. So the next time you feel the heaviness in a room, the sudden exhaustion near a certain person, the whisper of emotion that is not yours, remember this: nothing can enter your field without your resonance. Return to stillness. Breathe light into your center. Name what you feel and release it. You are not what moves through you. You are the space in which it moves. The shadow does not fear prayer. It fears presence. And when presence fills you completely, There is no room left for darkness to dwell. Chapter 5. The Science of Spiritual Protection. Protection is not resistance, it is remembrance. It is the art of staying so deeply aligned with truth that nothing false can enter your field. The word protection often evokes fear, as if the universe were filled with enemies, as if light were fragile. But the mystic knows that the highest form of defense is not the wall, but the frequency. Light that knows itself does not fight the dark, it reorganizes it. Everything in existence vibrates. Every cell, every thought, every emotion has its rhythm. When that rhythm is harmonious, energy flows freely. When dissonance enters, energy fractures. This is why the ancient adepts called protection spiritual hygiene, the daily tending of one's frequency, the purification of one's inner atmosphere. You are a living field of vibration. Your thoughts weave the pattern, your emotions give it color, your beliefs determine its strength. When that field is coherent, it becomes luminous, and luminous fields are impervious to corruption. So what, then, is spiritual protection? It is not superstition. It is the physics of the soul. It is the mastery of resonance, the conscious regulation of energy through awareness, rhythm, and intent. There are 3 stages to this mastery: purification, coherence, and radiance. 1. Purification, clearing the inner temple. All protection begins with cleansing, not of body, but of vibration. The first step is silence. In silence, energy reveals its true state. When you are quiet enough to hear your thoughts, you begin to see which ones are yours and which are echoes from the collective noise. Energy builds around attention. Whatever you constantly think about, you feed. So begin each day by withdrawing your attention from what weakens you. Breathe deeply, as if drawing light into your chest. Exhale the residue of the past. See your body glowing faintly as though rinsed by invisible fire. Do not imagine this. Feel it. Because the imagination of the heart is not fantasy. It is creation. Cleanse also your environment. Disorder is frozen energy. Clutter holds memory. Sound can restore harmony, sacred music, chanting, or pure silence. Light, too, cleanses. Sunlight, candle flame, the glow of awareness itself. Where light enters, heaviness cannot linger. Dion Fortune wrote, "Cleanliness of body is next to cleanliness of aura." To wash your hands is a symbol, to clear your mind is the act. Your outer life mirrors your inner field. Keep both in order, and the currents of darkness will find no place to attach. To coherence, establishing the axis of power. Once the field is cleansed, it must be stabilized. This is the science of centering, returning consciousness to its divine axis. Imagine a column of light descending through you, from the infinite above to the earth below. This is your spiritual spine, the vertical current through which divine intelligence flows. When you stand in that column, you become immovable. The world may move, but you remain anchored in stillness. In metaphysics, the uncentered mind is the open door. The centered mind is the sealed temple. When attention is scattered, energy leaks. When attention is gathered, energy obeys. To center is to command your field. It is not control. It is alignment. The moment you remember, I am here, I am conscious, the energies that drift within you begin to arrange themselves. Chaos dissolves. Silence deepens. Your vibration stabilizes like water returning to calm. This is not imagination. It is electromagnetic law. Your heart generates the largest field of energy in your body. When it is coherent, when emotion and thought move in harmony, that field extends several meters beyond you. It communicates with the world silently, informing matter how to behave around you. A coherent heart is a radiant command to the universe. Only harmony may enter here. 3. Radiance, the alchemy of love. There is a point beyond cleansing and centering, the point where you no longer need protection at all. This is the realm of radiance. Radiance is love in motion, not sentiment but frequency. It is the state of a soul so unified that nothing external can alter its vibration. Darkness cannot feed on love. Love does not resist it, absorbs and transforms. It turns poison into medicine, chaos into order, enemy into the mirror. This is why saints, mystics, and healers could walk among sickness and hatred untouched. Their frequency was too high to be reached by distortion. They were not avoiding darkness. They were redeeming it by presence. Radiance is not built overnight. It is cultivated through daily acts of awareness. Each moment of forgiveness expands it. Each thought of gratitude strengthens it. Each breath of compassion brightens it. The aura becomes a living flame, transparent and unassailable. When your field vibrates at this level, you cease to defend. You emanate. You are no longer a wall. You are a sun. Everything that touches you is refined, not resisted. You become the purifier of your environment, the silent stabilizer of others' storms. Dion Fortune discovered that selfless service was the strongest protection of all, because when energy flows outward in love, it cannot stagnate inward in fear. The aura becomes a fountain, and fountains do not drown. They overflow. The law of alignment. In the final analysis, spiritual protection is not about being safe from darkness. It is about being aligned with truth. When your energy mirrors divine order, the universe rearranges itself to match your frequency. You attract clarity. You repel distortion, not by effort, but by natural law. The mystics called this living in the light. It means to stand so rooted in the remembrance of your origin that even in chaos, you remain calm. You no longer guard yourself, you guard your awareness, for awareness is the gatekeeper of all reality. No invocation is stronger than a quiet mind, no shield is brighter than a loving heart, and no ritual can replace the power of a soul that knows what it is. When you live as that knowing, the I am within all that is, you discover that there was never a war to begin with, only the eternal play of energy, seeking to remember its source. You are not fighting the darkness, you are teaching it to remember the light. Chapter 6. The Alchemy of Transmutation. All that you have learned until now leads to this, the understanding that there is no separation between light and dark. There is only energy, ascending or descending, remembering or forgetting, expressing or suppressing the same divine force. When you cease to fear the shadow, you begin to wield it. You discover that what once oppressed you now obeys you, and what once drained you now fuels your ascent. This is the art of transmutation, the sacred science of turning density into light, the secret fire. In ancient temples, initiates were taught that the universe is fire, not the fire that burns, but the fire that transforms. They called it Azoth, the living flame that refines all matter, emotion, and thought. Everything you experience, joy, pain, fear, passion, is fuel for that fire. Nothing is wasted. Even darkness serves the light when placed within awareness. The alchemist does not flee from shadow, he feeds it to the flame. He holds his pain to his heart and whispers, "Become light," and it does. You see, shadow is only energy awaiting instruction. It is divine potential wrapped in ignorance. When you meet it with fear, it grows. When you meet it with rejection, it hides. But when you meet it with understanding, it yields its secret. It was never separate from light at all. The true mystic walks through darkness not to escape it, but to retrieve what was lost inside it. He reclaims the fragments of his forgotten power, his unhealed love, his unexpressed truth, and by gathering those fragments he becomes whole, the mirror of opposites. Everything you reject in the world mirrors something you have not yet accepted within yourself. The enemy you despise, the fear you deny, the weakness you hide. Each carries a fragment of your own soul, trapped behind the veil of judgment. When you meet darkness with awareness, you no longer see evil. You see distortion asking for alignment. You see unconsciousness longing to awaken. Transmutation begins the moment judgment ends, because judgment binds energy to polarity. It divides the whole into halves, light and dark, good and evil, self and other. But creation does not know halves. It moves as one rhythm. So when you cease labeling energy as bad, you liberate it to return to its natural state, harmony. You free yourself from duality. You dissolve the very structure that made darkness possible. This is why Christ said, "Resist not evil." He did not mean to surrender to it. He meant to understand it. For resistance feeds the fire of what you fear. To resist is to acknowledge separation. To understand is to end it, the inner furnace. Within the human body lies a hidden crucible, the solar plexus, the center of transformation. It is here that emotion becomes energy, and energy becomes light. When pain arises, when fear stirs, do not run. Breathe into the fire of your belly. Feel the emotion fully without naming it. Do not say anger or sadness. Say only, "This is energy moving through me." In that witnessing, the fire begins to work. The energy burns clean, releasing its luminous essence. The heaviness fades. The field expands. What was once shadow becomes warmth. This is alchemy without ritual. The direct transformation of energy through awareness. The masters called it the great work, not because it is difficult, but because it is infinite. Every moment presents you with new material to refine. Every emotion is ought to be smelted in the furnace of presence. Every interaction, every conflict, every fear. It is a gift disguised as opposition. The more you practice this, the less you fear the world. You will see darkness as opportunity, pain as initiation, and opposition as the echo of your own evolution. The reversal of polarity. When the alchemist reaches this stage, his relationship with energy reverses. He no longer seeks protection. He radiates it. He no longer avoids shadow. He illuminates it. He no longer prays for deliverance. He becomes the answer to his own prayer. Because he has realized all energies serve him now. Fear becomes vigilance. Pain becomes compassion. Shadow becomes wisdom. He no longer asks, "Why does this happen to me?" He asks, "What can this become through me?" This is the true power of the awakened soul. It does not destroy. It integrates. It does not curse. It blesses. It does not escape the world. It sanctifies it. To transmute is to redeem. To redeem is to remember. And to remember is to return all energy, light or dark, to its source, the crown of the work. There is a moment in every seeker's path when he stops fighting for the light and begins being it. In that moment, the war ends. Duality collapses into unity. You realize that every battle, every wound, every fear was your own energy asking to come home. You see that what you called darkness was the womb of your becoming, the pressure that gave birth to your awareness. Without it, you would never have learned to shine. This is the mystery of all spiritual evolution. The shadow is not your enemy, it is your training ground. It teaches you to wield energy with precision, to discern without judgment, to love without attachment. When the alchemist completes this great work, he becomes transparent. Light flows through him unhindered. The universe breathes through his being. Wherever he walks, harmony follows. Wherever he looks, division dissolves. He no longer says, "I am protected," for he knows there is nothing to protect from. He says only, "I am," the final revelation. Darkness was never the absence of light. It was the light longing to know itself. It is not punishment, but process, the sacred friction by which divinity awakens in matter. So when shadow rises again, as it will, do not fear it. Welcome it as your teacher. Hold it gently in the fire of your awareness and whisper, "You are free. You are never separate from me. You are only waiting for me to remember." And in that remembrance, the dark becomes radiant, the night becomes dawn, and the seeker becomes the sun. Epilogue. The return to light. In the end, all paths lead home, not to a place, but to a state. The remembrance that light was never lost, only veiled by forgetting. You have walked through the shadow not to escape it, but to understand that it was made of the same essence as the dawn. You have seen how energy bends to awareness, how darkness dissolves beneath the gaze of truth, and how even fear becomes sacred when seen without resistance. The battle was never outside you. It was the meeting of heaven and earth within your own heart, the fusion of soul and matter, the dance of fire and shadow in the temple of your being. Now, in this stillness, you can feel the truth that hums beneath all forms. That light does not conquer darkness. It includes it. It transforms it. It absorbs every fragment into wholeness. The great work was never about defense. It was about remembrance. The remembrance that your consciousness is the source itself. The same creative intelligence that moves galaxies, that speaks in silence, that breathes through every living soul, every fear you transmuted, every shadow you embraced, every emotion you face with love, has returned a piece of your power to you. You stand now not protected but radiant, a being who understands that the light you sought was the light you already were. The ancient adepts ended their initiations with these words: Lux in tenebris lucet. The light shines in the darkness. It does not flee, it transforms. And so when the night comes again, as it always does, you will not tremble. You will remember, you will stand as the lamp in the storm, the silent witness of all things, the flame that no shadow can touch, for darkness has never been your enemy. It was only your reflection waiting for the moment. You would dare to look and see only light.